So, yeah, the answer to that is, yeah, I've got one. The technique, obviously you've got this, so it's different, but the fundamentals are the same. So, it's the same as a cello too. I've got a cello in the back room. If anybody asks if I've got a cello, yes, I have. And
Hi, thanks, Mark. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. It's great to be here on the Rotosound thing for NAMM, which is it's lovely. I've never been to NAMM, Jack, and it's one of those music fairs that, it's massive, and it's one of the ones that I always thought one day, when there's time, I'll go, and now I've got the time, and the damn thing is just not running, only virtually, but that's okay. It's all good.
We'll have to see with 2022 what happens with it. I think, we'll have to see what happens with how the pandemic gets suppressed, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll all be safe and healthy, and the show can go back on. And
well, that'll be great. The sooner we can all get back to, doing the things that we love doing and just getting out there. I think that the situation globally where, people are stuck at home and just can't live their lives is, incredibly depressing, for so many people. And it's not, it's like, I think everybody feels sorry for themselves, but it's the same for everybody. It's not as if, we're the only ones in prison. It's everywhere, but it's something that's got to be done, and we will get through this, and it will pass. I can't wait to get back out there with the band and, do what I've been doing for the last 40 years, and that's making music.
So you had some shows lined up, right? It was
just a few.
Yeah,
just a few. 20.
Did you get any done before?
No. It was. That was it. It was. We were in rehearsals when I got the call about, what was just going to go down, and this was last March. We just finished the last day of rehearsals at John Henry's in North London, and a fantastic studio, and lots of love to John and the guys there. I can't imagine how hard it is I can imagine how hard it is for everybody involved in every sector of this business that we're in. But we just finished our last day at rehearsals, and I was sitting with the lads in the Cali pub at the end of Brewery Road there. Okay. And our tour manager, Clem, just got a text from the BBC because we've been rehearsing to play with the BBC Concert Orchestra at the London Palladium, which was something that we've very much been looking forward to do. And the plug got pulled, because it turns out that one of the orchestra that we'd been rehearsing with a few days earlier, a family member had tested positive. And this was before we were really all aware of just how serious, the COVID was going to be. We were hearing things. But anyway, that gig got pulled. So this was March 15th, and the show was going to be on the 16th, on the Monday. And so bang, that was gone. And then we were looking to go out and do an Australasian tour. So we had 10 shows in Japan, 3 in Australia, 1 in New Zealand, and then up to Singapore, and then back home, and then off through the summer playing festivals. And we had such a good, because it was actually our 40th anniversary last year, Jack. So, we had a lot of things plowed in, and then going through into the autumn, October, we had 24 shows in the UK, and then out into Europe, and goodness knows how many shows in Holland and Scandinavia. So all of that, of course, just was gone. And but we didn't know it at the time. We just got this call that look, this show's gone, and fingers crossed this will be okay, and fingers crossed this will be okay. But of course, as everything unfolded like it did for everybody, you realise that actually none of this is going to happen for, a while. And so the shows that we'd had got moved into this year. And now the way that things are unfolding too, because while they're trying to roll out vaccines and bits and pieces, shows are being rolled into 2022, which is it is what it is. But anyway, we'll get there. If everybody just does their bit, then we will get there, Jack.
I guess it seems like you were kind of one of the first ones to get that kind of cancellation before seeing that all the bands are kind of stopping it.
Oh yeah, when there's a slap round the head, mate, I'm always first in the queue.
Yeah. But yeah, then you kind of see, okay, that's just the way the industry's going, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you got to ride the wave, I suppose.
Yeah, you got to ride the wave. And what I did in that sort of initial 2 or 3 months of I came back here with my family to the Isle of Wight, and this is where I'm talking to you from now. So I kind of got stuck in the studio, and I fitted some cameras up around the place, and I was getting stuff via, my agent Neil, and they were saying, could you do a bit of a live stream for Nordhoff Robbins and for these various charities? Because of course, as soon as the events dry up, charities are right at the front of the queue in terms of people who their fundraising just goes down through the floor, just disappears. It's like somebody switching off a tap. And so I sort of set it up and I did a few live streams for them and did something for the Camp Festival dudes and and lots of things, which of course very, very happy to do. And then of course, it goes into another month and then another month, and you try and keep positive, and you try and keep sort of active. And I've been sort of very inspired by so many musicians that get up on YouTube and stream stuff and try and keep people entertained, really doing what we do and the best thing that we can do for people. But oh man, it's really hard. And you get into the start of the new year and it just looks like it's sort of streaming out ahead of you. But you have to stay positive and you have to try and keep. So, I sit in the studio and I noodle about and I can come in here and sit around like everybody else does and just sort of noodle about. My daughter Marley, she's indoors doing exactly the same thing, and you hear all these sounds coming out and stuff, and it's nice, that they keep creative. It's a good way out of the gloom, And if you're lucky enough to have a garden, get out there and get some fresh air, because we all need all this stuff, And if you're really, really bored, change your bass strings. That's what I say. Did I mention how much I love Rotosound strings?
No, maybe we can get into that a bit. Yeah, I'm interested. How did you first come about using the strings? Were they just always on the from like right at the beginning, the bass you first used? Or?
They really were. I started playing bass back in 1979. I was first picking the bass up when I was working at Makaris music shop in Charing Cross Road in London, and they didn't sell any drums because I really wanted us to play drums. That was what I was doing at the time, Jack. But they didn't have any drums in the shop. They had lots of instruments and accordions. I never quite got my head around the accordion, but it was great to see sort of traveling musicians and session guys that were playing in the shows in the West End and come in, and you get sort of some cool American dudes who'd like come in and say, "Can I try that Fender bass?" And they'd sort of sit down and thump it a bit. And I was thinking, oh yeah, this is, I can relate to this because it looks like drumming, but on a bass guitar. Anyway, the bass that really sort of, because I wasn't a bass player per se, an instrument that felt really nice to me was an old Gibson EBO, which was a sort of a semi-acoustic bass, but it was short scale. And this is kind of where the light strings, because I've always used light gauges, 30, 50, 70 and 90, because that was sort of the short scale set that Rotosound were manufacturing at the time. They were round wound, so they was sort of nice and bright. And so when, as sort of time went by and I started playing bass and Level 42 got going, I approached the guys at Rotosound who were, fantastic from day one to ask if they could actually manufacture long scale strings. Because by that time I managed to pick up my first bass guitar, which was a JD. I'll just grab
that. Yeah, grab it.
That was this old boy, and this was the first bass I ever owned. and it's you can see it's pretty sort of worn, and when I got it, it was brand new, and it's as beaten to pieces now, but it's such a lovely old thing. And of course, it's long scale. So, I asked if the guys at Rotosound could come up with some long scale, but the gauges I would like would be 30, 50, 70, and 90. And they came up with them for me, and it was great. And I think that's kind of where the Funkmaster, the Funkmaster range of strings started coming through, and then they were coming up with what were they called? Superwound, I think was another brand of strings that they were putting out at the time, and these were ones that had adjustable. The ball at this end you actually fitted yourself, and it had it was a piano winding, so rather like a grand piano. You just had the core went over the bridge, and then the winding started, and you could, but because the ball was adjustable, you could make it fit any instrument that you had. And I used used those for a while, but no, they've just been great. But that sort of the very light gauges. They give you a particular sound, and of course the round wound gave me the brightness that I was looking towards, and the way that we were able to sort of counteract maybe the lack of bottom end that the strings would have been producing is that the level 42 thing, we always had sort of synth basses playing along in tandem with what we were doing, so that was fulfilling the real sort of sub bass and the bottom end. While I was clattering around and, flying about on top. But it worked for us, and it sort of became very much part of the level thing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I kind of going from almost a happy accident, ending up with those light gauge strings. And
yeah,
I guess that affected your playing as well, because they're easier to bend. Perhaps you're
for sure, yeah.
Play higher up, yeah, and then that's
and I'd been sort of exposed to, I was a massive fan of Return to Forever and Mahavishnu Orchestra and bands these fusion bands from America.
Yeah.
So being able to see these these amazing bass players, but not sort of doing the usual bass player thing, which is kind of stood there fulfilling just the root notes of everything. Mm-hmm. So they were getting about and moving around. So as a new sort of aspiring bass player, because this all seemed such a lot of fun to me, there were no rules really. You could just go around, and the very light strings were perfect for that, because you could bend things. You could like ping harmonics and bend them around, and and you could really sort of get a good old bend on the, which is just dead easy to do.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Have you been back to Makaris recently? Is it in the same location? Because I think it's still on Charing Cross Road, but is it the same number?
Do you know? Nah, tragically, one of the Joey Jowett, our monitor guy, sent me a very sad sign, and it was, I guess, one of the many casualties of COVID is that they shut down. They finished trading. So for all those years, I went through them. My brother Nathan worked in there for a bit, and it's just really sad, that they couldn't sort of see it out, and that they've gone. Understandable, but so many music stores suffering, of course. And then there's the online thing. So I think a lot of people are accessing their instruments and getting stuff via online things. So the idea of actually physically going to a store now isn't quite what it was back in the day.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I must have gone in there a couple of weeks before COVID became a big thing in the UK. The last time I popped in there, I live in London, and
yeah.
I didn't even realize that's not there now. I've seen
No,
they
shame,
started reissuing their
the colour sound pedals.
Sound,
yeah.
Yes.
That there was a little while when I was working there, and it looked like I was sort of doing things on an instrument that Larry and Joe Makaris asked me, if I would like to go and demonstrate colour sound pedals for them.
Okay.
So, and it was great. And there was one of the engineers, probably the engineer that was coming up with the guts of the pedals for them was a guy called Tim Orr. And I went to his place, and one pedal we were working on, was a diphthonizer, and I don't know if anybody can ever. That would be something worth googling. See if anybody's got one of those somewhere around on eBay or something. But a diphthonizer, and you had these sort of preset vowel sounds, so it would go A, E, O, it was just a crazy pedal that I think now would be really something. I wouldn't mind getting hold of one of those.
Yeah, we'll have to have a look for one of them. Maybe, maybe that's something they'll put into production again.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
And we had a question from someone called Aria Sunkono on Twitter, asking about how often you change your strings and why.
Well, do you know what? I change strings more often than I change my underwear, actually, Jack and Aria out there. Is that playing live? I tend to use two basses during a gig. Through the course of a show, because I find that about 45 minutes I've got all of the brightness and everything there, but they take a real thumping during the course of a level 42 set. And what I'm really sort of pinging off and to sort of show you, I'll give you an example of it. It's sort of quite, I don't know if the camera will sort of pick this up, but if you have a look at the pickup, the covers of the pickup are actually worn away from the strings hitting them. And yet, if you think how far away the string is from the pickup cover, it's incredible to think that it gets there. So that's the kind of smacking that the instruments get. And consequently, the strings, because you're forever pulling on them, the windings kind of get a little looser, so the brightness starts dipping off. So combine that with the sweat that you're producing on stage. So 45 minutes, then I'm ready for a new set of strings. And I never did that with the Gizmodome gig when I was out, because I just wasn't pounding the bass like that. So it really was just down to the amount of punishment that the strings were taking. So I'd go through 2 sets a night, and one of my techs had a really good idea of rather than just sort of bin the strings every show, if we just sort of collect them up and we can knock the old strings out at merchandise and give the money to, so they were going out at £5 a set. They were, knackered, but all the money went to Beauty Respite, which is a charity that I'm involved with. So it was kind of win-win situation, really.
Oh, that's really good. So with making music during the last year, the pandemic and stuff, do you do kind of like with Level 42, do you send each other tracks? Is that anything you kind of do like that? It's
not something that we've been doing. I think the last time Mike and I exchanged ideas, in fact, Mike came down here, was the last time that we were exchanged ideas. And I've got a folder on the desktop here of some lovely bits that Mike's got. And there's, we've been doing this for a lot of years now, Jack, and what you get with sort of musical ideas is it's just like the little thing I was noodling with earlier on there. It's definitely got a level thing about it. And it's something that, I've noodled with, and it doesn't matter if I don't finish it today or tomorrow or anything, but it just sort of goes in the drawer. And then when you're looking for ideas, but because then, 3 days time, you'll have another idea and something will take your fancy, and then you put it away. And when you are actually looking for, let's get some songs together for a project, you start rifling through these ideas because they become a good springboard to maybe go on from. And it's been my experience throughout the whole of the Level thing, the Level's career over 40 years now, is that the best songwriting happens, in conjunction with other people, because you'll play something to them or you'll give them something and they respond to it in a certain way, and what they add to it inspires you again. So you kind of fall back in love with the idea that you had that was maybe sort of 2 or 3 years old, or even older sometimes. That then coupled with the fact that I've got so many so many old DAT tapes and bits and pieces. So one of the things that I was doing last year was just going through and finding all kinds of bits and pieces. And I had to get out my DAT machine service because all the rubber drive wheels in there had perished. And,
Okay.
some of this stuff goes back for years and years. But the ideas that you pull out, you think, oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember this thing. And, so it's been nice to, if I think there's something that I'm not really going to do anything more with, I'll get it up on SoundCloud, and maybe some of the fans will be interested in it, so they get to hear some stuff that way.
That's really cool. Is there? I see you've got like the drum kit in the background, and there's guitars around.
Yeah. I always sort of keep my hand in, just knocking about on the drums, and my sort of latest project is I would love to. I want to try and sort of recreate that there's sort of the mid-70s vibe of drums when we didn't have the luxury of all these tracks, and close miking wasn't so much the thing. And I was speaking with Gary Husband, a very good buddy of mine, fantastic musician, and he's been demoing some stuff. Not demoing, but what do you call it? Sort of, demonstrating bits and pieces on a kit that he's got set up. And I was just amazed at how good it sounded. And sort of talking to him, he said, "Well, I'm using like sort of 4 mics maximum on the whole kit, and it was a big kit, but it sounded great." And I suddenly started thinking, well, this is how it would have been sort of back in the day. And if I listen to old James Brown songs, or and it's so many great things that you hear from way back. And you think, the drum sound is great there. My daughter Marley was playing something from Can, this German band from.
Oh yeah, Can. Yep.
Yeah. You remember that? And that's sort of late '60s, early '70s.
Yeah.
And there's been a remix done of a track of theirs. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but the drum sound on it is just fantastic. And when I hear that, I think, well, there's no way they didn't have mics on everything.
Right.
It's just like a couple of mics, but well placed. So that's sort of something I'm messing around with at the moment, Jack.
And like you say, having the time to go back and forth, move this mic a little bit. That's the magic place. And
yeah, that's right. Because there are sweet spots, and it's all sort of dependent on the room you're in. I've got this sort of the old go-to thing of sticking egg boxes all over the walls, because it sort of deflects that you don't get too much refracted sound coming back, but it's all good fun, and it fills the day, which is a nice way to pass the time.
And what about your setup for your bass when you're recording there? Do you?
Well, when I record here, what I've been messing around with just recently is I had because I'm using Mark bass gear these days, and there's been this very nice Mark bass preamp which has got a valve in it, which gives you a very nice kind of warmth and stuff. So DIing, because of the nature of the digital audio workstations that everybody seems to work with nowadays, it's a good way to set stuff in. But I did something a couple of years back now. Well, maybe it was last year. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But with Taylor Hawkins from Foo Fighters. Yeah, and T sent me this track that he wanted me to play on, and Chris Chaney was playing bass on it too, which sounded absolutely fantastic. So I was saying, look, I can't do anything better than Chris has done on there, because it had this real gnarly sound, as T was talking about. And this is just a really good, I don't know if he's using an Ampeg setup or something, but it's just very big and gruff,
rock
and it
sound.
suits the music absolutely perfectly. And that's mic'd. You're talking about a cab that's mic'd here, as well as maybe taking a DI feed too. But when we record live, there's always a mic on the cabs that we take 2 feeds. So you take a mic and a DI too. So you've kind of got a clean feed and this warm one. And sort of back in the day, we always had the cabs mic'd as well as DI too. So you can sort of mess around with it and find the sound that you want.
So it's just an easy setup at where you are there. Just go into the little preamp and.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's sort of a good sort of get round. But if I don't know if I can just sort of angle the camera down here, but
Yeah.
you're getting some of that. I've just got like a 410 here. I've always really liked 10-inch speakers because they work well for slap. If I'm doing slap, it's good and fast and very responsive and stuff. And as I said earlier, that there's a synth bass works its way into our parts and stuff that I write too, because that can supply the sort of the sonic low end that that's signature to our sound, as well as the nice sort of boinginess of my Rotosound strings.
Yeah, cool. Right, let's have a look at some more questions. We've got loads through on social media. We've had one from Neil Hubbards, who's asking, have you ever tried your hand at double bass, and is there video evidence?
Tell you what, hang on one sec. There's
Hey.
Look at this old thing. I don't know how to play it, but I can spin it round like and do that thing. Interestingly enough, that if you think about the whole sort of rockabilly thing, and like Bill Haley and the Comets and things, like if you listen to Rock Around the Clock, and the upright bass that's being played in there is very sort of slap style, because they're sort of pinging on and off of the thing, so you get this very percussive thing that's
making up for the lack of drummer sometimes, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but very often if they'd be setting up on a street corner somewhere, that would be the be getting there. So yeah, the answer to that is yeah, I've got one. The technique, obviously you've got this, so it's different, but the fundamentals are the same. So, it's the same as a cello too. I've got a cello in the back room. If anybody asks if I've got a cello, yes, I have. And because that was something that when I was at school, I would have loved to have played cello. And because my grades weren't good enough in class, they just, no, you can't play cello. It went to some girl with specs on who probably ended up playing it very well, but I never got the chance. But I would have loved to have done that. But once again, the fundamentals are the same. Sort of 4 strings. You're not messing around with too much, and it just takes a slightly different technique, but a beautiful sound and a sound all of its own, really. When I did a couple of acoustic albums a few years back now, and in that I used I've got a Sigma acoustic bass, which is sort of one of Martin's sort of budget line things, just from a music store that I picked up in Newport, because I wanted an acoustic sounding thing, and I didn't have this at the time, but that was pretty good. I'll just go and grab that and show you. Ta-da! This old boy.
Okay, cool.
And there, it's very bit of a detune there. I was doing something for Marley the other day, and it's cool because it sounds like a double bass when you plug it in, so you got that all of that resonance and that depth that's in there too. But it was good for doing the acoustic stuff on.
Oh, cool. We'll have to go back and have a listen to that and pick out those acoustic parts on that album.
Yeah. It won't blow you away, but it's in there, and you'll think, yeah, that's an acoustic bit. And I see that was the instrument, and I didn't even bother to take the I spent 275 quid on this in the shop. Bargain. So it was a bargain, yeah, and it's nice.
Well, my next question was going to be about the cello, but you've answered that one already.
I bet.
The next one is from Amanda Hodgkinson, and she says, Mandy, are there any dreams or ambitions that you're yet to fulfill?
Oh, my goodness. I'm not sure that there is, that we all have dreams and stuff. And, no, I think that, I've been so lucky in this business, and I've got to meet the guys that I wanted to meet, and I've got to work with some incredible players over the years. That's all dream stuff. The only thing I would say about dreams is that it's up to you to make them reality. You can do the thing, and sort of puts me in mind of being a young guy, the age of 16 or 17, and writing to my heroes, and one guy in particular, Lenny White, who was the drummer with Return to Forever. I wrote to him, and he very kindly wrote back, and I went to visit him, and just sort of talking to him in the flesh, and not doing the playing thing, but just hearing his wisdom and his experience that he could pass on. But I made that happen. That you have to do that. So it's really good to dream, and it's good to have ambition. That's what'll get you anywhere, and it'll certainly get you up out of bed in the mornings. So just get on it and go for it.
You've obviously got the skill and the ambition to make those dreams happen. So yes.
I think that everybody needs to do that. You have to find it within yourself, because you're the only one that will make anything happen for you. So if you have an idea and you want to follow that idea, that dream, go for it. I mean, anything's possible. Anything's possible, Jack.
Valuable advice. Okay, my last question is, we're a little bit into January now, but I just wondered whether you had like a musical New Year's resolution, anything that you want to work on your instrument, or new instrument to learn, or any projects?
I should get on and get the cello out of its case and maybe have a scrape around on that for a bit. Just more of the same. I love playing. It's the only thing I'm really any good at doing, Jack. I like doing lots of things. I like I like getting out and being in the garden and mucking around out there. And physically, that's good, because, kind of sitting on your butt in a studio staring at an LCD screen isn't the healthiest thing in the world. But, that the creativity is something that it just comes, it hits you. And the old thing about inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. So the best thing is to get in, sit on your butt and do something, because you'll noodle around and good stuff comes. And like I said, put it away in the drawer. You only need a nugget of an idea, and if you're lucky enough to be able to share it with fantastic people that you trust that musically, then good things will come.
Okay, Mark, thanks. I know you're busy, so we're going to end it around here, I think.
I'm not that busy, Jack. My diary is surprisingly empty at the moment, but
let's hope that changes soon. We'll see how things happen.
Well, at the moment, we're still scheduled for out and doing the the UK tour now in 2021 through October. So and on into Europe after that. So October, November, December. Fingers crossed that that the vaccines are out there, and that the main thing though is that everybody stays safe and well. And these are crazy times, but we'll get through it all. Don't worry.
Well, I hope to see you in person when it all clears up and it's safe enough.
That'd be
lovely. This is great anyway, in the meantime, to be able to do this. Thanks a lot. All of our fans and your fans, I'm sure going to be really happy to see some of the questions answered and have a little catch up.
Real pleasure, Jack. Thank you. Nice talking to you, man. And thanks to all the guys at Rotosound, and love to Jason. Good, cool guys. All the best.
Cheers, Mark. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, man. Cheers. Bye-bye.